Sunday Surefire Podcast. It's your host this week, Aaron Downtown Brown. I got the commish.
Hello, hello.
I got Ethan Weaver.
It's the off season. How we doing?
We are doing. I'm definitely excited. I'm sure you guys know why. I'm excited because we're not talking how the Chiefs just got their butts kicked in the Super Bowl. And more so that we're moving on to Dynasty, right? 2024 season's over. Don't want to talk about
Yeah,
it
you,
ever
you can't move
again.
on fast enough over there.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, this is kind of an exciting time for us because this really, that even though the 24 season is finished, our 25 season's just beginning, right? So, as we know, Dynasty is a 365 day um, uh, race, right? More of a marathon. And we're going to kick it off with kind of covering some of the top five prospects in the upcoming rookie draft. So, Kamish and Ethan, you've done your homework, and I'm going to kind of play dumb because, frankly, I kind of am right now. So I'm going to play the dynasty manager that needs to play keep up a little bit and start checking out these rookie prospects. But before we truly kick it off, I do want to call out, just a reminder now that the 24 season is over. A key thing to look at is, top three teams for top three picks in this upcoming draft are the Titans, Browns, and Giants, who all need quarterbacks, right? And you go down a couple picks to pick six with the Raiders and the Jets at pick seven too. So really the top seven picks in this year's rookie draft, all those teams really need QB. So it's going to be interesting kind of hearing from you guys. Are these, top 10 caliber quarterbacks or are they not? And that way we can kind of see are some of these teams reaching or kind of what happens in the draft. But I guess without further ado, we're going to start with top prospect Cam Ward from Miami, and we'll let Kamish take it away from here.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Good teeing everything up there. Good start. But yeah, let's talk Cam Ward here out of Miami, previously of Washington State. Really like this prospect. I'll just say off the top here, he's currently my QB1 in the class. A lot could change between now and we have the combine, certainly the NFL draft. We get the capital, and we figure out where these guys are going to land. But as we sit right now, we're filming this episode on February 12th, so I'm rolling with Cam Ward as my QB1. The quick rundown on him is this: he's 6'2", 233, has the prerequisite size to play the position at the NFL level. Really like his arm talent as well. 86 career touchdown passes, indicates that the guy knows how to sling the rock. And then if you watch the tape, that's more or less what he showed us. He is able to make some off-script plays when he needs to, which it really has become more and more relevant in recent years in the NFL game. There's one throw in particular when you turn on his film. He's playing a game against Florida where he gets pressured right up the middle. Just kind of he dodges it easily, rolls out to his left. He has that opportunity to take off. He can pick up 7, 8 yards with his legs, but instead he keeps his eyes downfield, throws it a little bit off platform, about 35 yards in the air to a wide receiver in the back of the end zone. It was an NFL caliber throw. Just the type of things that you want to see that really highlight some of his strengths. Um, Graded out really well analytically as well from the folks at PFF. He was the number one rated college quarterback in 2024, so checked out well from the analytics standpoint. I think he's just a guy that I think that scouts are going to love, and his willingness to stand in there and take a hit from the pocket when delivering the football is the thing that I really liked about him. Some quick things, not certainly not a perfect prospect. There are no perfect prospects ever, especially in the 2024 class. A couple things to work on while standing in the pocket and taking a hit to deliver the ball can be a good thing. It can also kind of be a little bit of a double-edged sword as well. There are certainly times on his film where you watch him and he's holding on to the ball for too long, and it's going to lead to things like sacks, possibly some turnovers, fumbles, things that are just drive killers in the NFL. So yes, he has to kind of just learn to fight another down when it's not there in the NFL. And he can certainly make plays with his legs when he needs to, but he's not going to be a guy that you draw up, 8 to 12 QB runs a game for. So don't think he's quite that, even though he can showcase some of that athleticism, from time to time when he needs to. So those are my quick rundowns on his strengths and weaknesses. I guess I'll see if Ethan's got anything to add on those before we kind of start to talk a little bit about his outlook and where we see him getting drafted in the NFL and then in Dynasty as well.
Yeah, Cam Ward is my at this point in the process, my number one QB prospect going into this draft season. Like you said, he's thrown a ton of touchdown passes. If you actually include his stop at Incarnate Word before Washington State, he actually holds the record for most touchdown passes in college history with 156. So, guy can sling the rock, like you said. His arm talent is very apparent, and I think he's probably the top QB in terms of his arm talent in this class. Obviously, a lot of people know him, just how calm, cool, and collected he is in the pocket, smooth, just kind of stands there and delivers the rock. But I do like Cam Ward. I do think he's going to go in the top five in the NFL draft. I know Mel Kiper had him number one in his initial mock draft, and I know others like Chad Reuter, I think, have him as the number one quarterback off the board as well. Um, so Cam Ward, a lot obviously a lot can happen in the process, and like you said, he isn't a perfect is not a perfect prospect. He completed just 39% of his passes inside the red zone in 2024 per Pro Football Focus, which obviously isn't ideal. I mean, obviously when you get in the red zone, things tighten up. You really got to be on point. So that needs to be improved upon. And like Kamish said, he isn't going to be able to play hero ball in the NFL. You got to get rid of the ball. You got to go through your progressions quickly and either throw the ball away or take off and run. You can't just sit back there and run around and pull a Caleb Williams in his rookie year,
Right.
right? I mean, we all know Caleb Williams has had a lot of talent, but you could tell he thought he was still like almost playing at college at times, and he would just get just huge, massive losses, massive sacks, and it just drive killers. So Cam Ward definitely needs to work on that, like Kamish alluded to. But overall, I do like Cam Ward in a somewhat underwhelming quarterback class.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, Aaron. And do you want to add anything before I get into the outlook, his outlook this year?
No, how about you go right into that, and I'll kind of pose a question to you guys after we kind of
Okay,
hear both of
you
your
stood on that
takes.
you stood on that question for a minute, Aaron. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure it's a doozy. But yeah, no. So this is kind of his outlook here from what where I think he's going to turn out from NFL perspective. I think there's a strong chance he's the first quarterback off the board in this upcoming draft. With so many teams at the top of the draft needing a quarterback, I'd be shocked if he's still on the board after the top three picks come off. I guess I don't think that's really a hot take or anything on my side either. Um, as far as fantasy outlook in drafts, if he does get that top three draft capital or anywhere in the top five, really, I mean, he's going to be gone anywhere from the 102 to the 105 in super flex leagues, depending on what teams need who are drafting in that range. He's probably going to be the consensus number two in mocks, so keep that in mind. I'm a little bit less interested in him in one quarterback formats, believe it or not, because I want to swing for high level upside with rushing, and I just don't really think he's going to give us quite enough of that in one QB. So I kind of have him probably as a late first, early second round pick in those one QB formats, because from a fantasy standpoint, I think if everything aligns well for Cam Ward at the pro level, I think he's going to be that guy who kind of hangs around between QB 10 and QB 15, 16 or so, in terms of production, if everything goes well for him. So again, that's a valuable, really valuable piece in a superflex league. Not so valuable in one QB where it's a little bit easier to fill your quarterback position. And if I'm going to invest in a quarterback in one QB, I want to spend my draft picks on guys that have more of a higher rushing floor, or maybe have like, whatever, 40 plus touchdown upside as well. So that's kind of just how I see him getting drafted at the NFL level, and then kind of how the trickle down will come out on the dynasty lens as well.
No, I agree with that. I think just looking at our dynasty rookie drafts, I do think Cam Ward in superflex leagues probably should be a top five pick, considering he's probably going to go top three. When it comes to quarterbacks, I know I lean heavily just on draft capital. Let the NFL tell me how they view these quarterbacks. Like we were talking before we got on tonight. I mean, we can break down all the film. I mean, go through the whole process with the combine and all this stuff. And it's like, I mean, these NFL GMs, these scouts, I mean, they break down film, I mean, an insane amount more than we even dream of doing. They see these guys in person, they interview them, and they get it wrong all the time. I mean, obviously, for me, I love Trey Lance, right? Trey Lance, this awesome prospect, has all the tools. It's going to be a home run pick, and I draft him over Jamar Chase, and now look at me, I look like a fool. So it's tough for these quarterbacks. That's why I do, like I said, lean heavily on what the NFL tells me. And if the NFL tells me that Cam Ward's a top 3 NFL draft pick, who's pretty much going to get guaranteed 2 to 3 years of starting, depending if it's like catastrophic or not, I that's a pretty safe pick in rookie drafts. And if a manager needs a quarterback, I can definitely see them taking Cam Ward at the 102 if he gets top 3 draft capital. But it'll be interesting to see where the other obviously prospects fall in this draft class with the running back and wide receiver, tight end positions, because it is a pretty deep running back class. There's going to be, I mean, multiple first round receivers. I mean, there's some really good tight end prospects. So in one QB, I could easily see Cam Ward slipping out of the first round early and just fall in the early second. But like I said, in Superflex, depending on team need, if a manager needs a quarterback, I could easily see him going 102, 103, 104.
Easily.
Gotcha. I guess here's my question I'll kind of pose to you guys, and then we'll move on. But just kind of hearing since he is your guys' QB1, and it sounds like, I guess, question one is it a large tier break before we go down to these next four quarterbacks to where he's your solid number one, where I guess we're also saying, let's say barring no trades happen, are the Titans taking him off the board with the first pick of the draft?
I don't think it's a massive tier gap between 1 and 2. Honestly, I kind of have 1, 2, and 3 somewhat close, and then there's certainly a really big tier gap from between 3 and 4. I think this is a 3 quarterback race for the to be the top guy off the board. Might even be a two quarterback race to be off the board, to be being honest with you. But yeah, I would probably have the top 3 sitting in one spot. And I mean, if the Titans really go through the process and they love Cam Ward, I can see them taking him 101. They did come out and say that they deem there to be a generational talent on the board, then they're going to go ahead and grab him, which all signs would indicate that's probably Abdul Carter out of Penn State being
Yep.
that guy. So if we're going to take them at their word, which is a scary thing to do in the NFL, listening to what NFL GMs come out and say. But that's kind of where they're at, it sounds like. But either way, I mean, whether it's 101, 102, or 103, I'm not really that worried about it because he's going to end up in a quarterback needy situation. And whoever drafts him up there is going to give him every opportunity to succeed. So whether it pans out or not, I'm not sure. But I think we're not going to wait very long before we hear his name called come draft day.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think with the way the draft board lays out, uh, two of these, I think there's a tier break after the top 2 quarterbacks, with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and I think both those guys are going to be off the board within the top 6 picks, I would say. So, I mean, Daniel Jeremiah, he actually has Abdul Carter at 1, and then Travis Hunter to the Cleveland Browns at 2. So it could get interesting. But I do think, I mean, if that does happen, I mean, you have the Giants at 3. They're probably going Cam Ward. And like I said, you have the Raiders at 6, which Shedeur Sanders keeps getting mocked there quite often. But I do think it's a 2 quarterback race, like Kamish said. And then, I mean, we'll see how the other quarterbacks shake out. But in my opinion, I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if it's only 2 quarterbacks in the first round. I do think there's another quarterback or 2 that could sneak into it, but I don't think they're going to be top 10 picks.
Got it. I like it. Well, Ethan, let's actually stick with you because you called out QB2 that we're going to be talking tonight, and that's Shedeur Sanders. So I know he is a popular name. A lot of folks have seen his highlights, and he's all over everywhere, right? But let's hear a little bit of perspective for Shedeur, and we're talking tier breaks, and let's see if there's any tiebreakers between Ward and Shedeur in fantasy.
Yeah, obviously Shedeur Sanders is a very polarizing prospect with Dion being his father. But I mean, Shedeur had a pretty good college career, starting at Jackson State. He led those guys in 2022 to a national championship. Then went over to Colorado and played under his father. But I mean, in 2024 he had over 4,000 passing yards. He had 37 touchdowns, 10 picks. And completed, I believe, 74% of his passes in 2024. And I think in his Colorado career, it was over 70% in total. So obviously that's very impressive. I mean, Shedeur, I mean, that just tells you he can make um, decent decisions, obviously. But I do think, I mean, he's not. I mean, like it'll be a common theme, but not the perfect prospect. He's definitely not the athlete like his father Dion. He can run, but he's not gonna get you a ton on the ground. I mean, just looking at his rushing stats in college, I mean, unfortunately they do count sacks, so he has negative rushing yards his last two seasons. But that just kind of tells you he's not taking off too much. I mean, he can get out there outside the pocket with his legs, and he can make plays, but that's not something that he's known for. I do think he takes a little too long to deliver the football. He has like a longer operating time, which I think can get him into trouble in the NFL, considering he doesn't have like an elite arm skill set. So he definitely doesn't have the arm of Cam Ward. Um, like I think a lot of his throws in college, I mean, some of them would be interceptions just in the pros, just because the lack of arm talent. But I so he definitely needs to he needs to be very anticipatory with his throws in the NFL. He needs to be a quick decision maker, or I don't think he's gonna be very successful, because it's not like he has a rocket arm where a flick of the wrist can get the ball there. So he's gonna need to work on, obviously, pre-snap reads and picking apart defenses in the NFL if he wants to be successful, because he did take a ton of sacks in college, which lends to holding on to the football, not making those quick decisions. So if he's holding the ball in college and taking a ton of sacks, that's definitely not a good transition, or it doesn't translate well in the NFL. So there's definitely a lot of things that he needs to work on. I do think he's a QB2 in this class, just because I do think he's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. And like I said, top 10 pick is going to give you some level of security in terms of like getting at least 2, 3, 4 years. Usually that rookie contract, unless, like I said, they fall on their face. So I think the only reason, I mean, I like Shador is because I think of the security he's going to get with the NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good points on Sanders there. I think the big superpower for him is the accuracy, like Ethan said.
Yeah.
The 74% completion rate was actually number one in the country in 2024. So that was impressive to me, because if you look at how bad Colorado's offensive line was for the majority of the season, I mean, that it just speaks to him, being able to put the ball where he needs to put it. But like Ethan said, not a perfect prospect either. So I think he can stand to improve, like seeing the blitzes coming, getting rid of the football a little faster as well. Not an elite level athlete that you think, but yeah, I think there's some good things for him. I think he's gonna, in a class that's otherwise mostly down at quarterback. I think he's going to be gone by the time the top six comes and goes. So I could see that happening as well. I guess I'll just go right into the outlook for him. I think in best case he lands in an offense where they kind of run on with an on time approach, where they're not asking him to do a ton in terms of moving the ball with his legs outside the pocket and extending plays, stuff like that. Just kind of getting the ball out quickly, I think, is probably where he's best suited, where you can use that accuracy. I kind of have him sort of as like a QB2 in fantasy. If he gets drafted in the top 10, even. And Superflex probably going to be drafted anywhere from the 105 to the 110, depending on the capital he does get. If he does go in the top three, I can see that jumping up to probably like maybe even the 103, maybe 104, something like that. If a team needs a quarterback who's selecting in that range, um, I just think he's a good player. Then we'll see how it pans out here. I don't want to hold the whole like he's Deion Sanders' kid. He's polarizing against him in this process. Really try to look at it with an open mind and be objective on that. So we'll see how he pans out. But he's definitely a high profile player for sure. Even Aaron knows who he is.
No, I like it. I mean, I think, but with you guys both bringing up, I mean, 70% completion is definitely no joke. We know in the NFL the completion rate has just rised right in the last 10 years with quarterbacks. If you're not over 65%, then you're really not winning NFL games at all, right? And then it's a revolving door pretty much.
And one last point on him here. Ethan said he's his QB2 in the class. I have a QB3 in this class personally at this moment in time. So pretty bullish on another quarterback we haven't discussed yet.
Yeah,
All
and then
right.
like I said, I mean, there's think I know who the commissioner's talking to. Like I said, I take a lot of stock into what the NFL tells me with these quarterbacks. I think Shedeur is going to be a top 6 prospect. I think the quarterback that we'll hear from later is not going to be top 10. I don't think he's going to be a top 20. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, there's a lot to this process that
Yeah,
needs to
you're wrong
play
about it.
out. So,
You're wrong about it. It's all right.
but I do think if Shedeur goes um, the Raiders at 6 with his skill set and just like getting the ball out and things like that. I mean, you have guys like Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers that work the middle, short, intermediate levels of the field, which would be a good I think a good fit for him. So, like I said before, I do see him mocked there quite often.
Well, let's go ahead and move on then to who we're planning on talking third. And if you're looking at rankings, a lot of times this guy is number three. So let's see if this is Commissioner's third or not. But we'll talk Jalen Milroe out of Alabama, and Commish, we'll let you bat lead off this time over Jalen.
Yeah, I won't drag it out here to let you know if this is my QB2 or not. He's not. He's definitely not my a top three quarterback in this class for me. Um, he did some good things on the field, though. I mean, he's definitely a strong runner. Put up 1,200 rushing yards and 32 scores on the ground over his final 2 seasons at Alabama when he got the opportunity to start. He can watch him play, but he gets out of the pocket with ease and he runs downhill. Has a big arm as well that he can really air it out there on deep balls, which is good to see. But the issues with him, man, is I mean he makes the easy stuff look hard. The short and intermediate areas of the field in the passing game, slow to process the field, just poor footwork that leads to off-target throws, and poor ball placement. So, like, as much as we love the rushing stuff for fantasy as well, I mean, he at times can just have a tendency to see his first read not being there and tuck the ball and take off, especially when pressure gets to him, which is good for fantasy, but NFL teams I think are going to hold it against him in their evaluation process. I think this guy screams project to me, and Ethan says he doesn't like drafting guys that the NFL doesn't love. I think this is a guy he's probably going to be like a day two pick, in my opinion. So the first round capital is not going to be there. So I'm going to be pretty much out on Milroe as a prospect at least at this point in time.
Yeah, Milroe is a guy that maybe you take a stab at in the second round of your Superflex leagues, maybe back into the second. I guess it depends where he goes. I mean, if he's a second round quarterback, Jalen Hurts was a second round quarterback. So I guess you never know. Obviously, Jalen Hurts was much more polished than Milroe here, but not really much more to add. I mean, he's very raw, but I mean, phenomenal athlete, phenomenal arm. I mean, depending on where you're looking, they have him listed at either like 6'3", 206 or 6'2", 225 on the Bama site. So it's probably a little higher than what he's going to come at the combine. But I mean, like he didn't do himself many favors at the in down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. He didn't do much in the game. And there was a lot of talk about him switching positions, and he was quoted that yeah, you don't ask a zebra to be a dog. So he definitely wants to be a quarterback, but people see the athleticism and they don't necessarily see like. I mean, maybe potentially quarterback in the NFL, just because, like Kamish said, I mean, you can't make the easy throws look hard. Mel Kiper, he basically said about the Senior Bowl. He says the inconsistency we saw at Alabama, we see again down in Mobile, but the talent's there and the want to is there, the desire is there, the love of the game is there. So I think for Jalen Milroe, it's about projecting. It's not what you see, it's not who you are, it's who you will be, and that's how you have to look at him. So essentially, it's like, hey, you have to project, hey, can these NFL teams bring him in, mold him, and basically bring him in and develop him to the quarterback that they think he can be. So he's definitely a massive, massive project. And he's basically a dart throw at this point.
The one thing I can't really get out of my head with him is, and this is not his fault in any way, shape, or form, is we saw a guy who was super raw 2 years ago, and Anthony Richardson come out of the draft. And I just think like our NFL team is going to hold this against him. I can't say for sure one way or another that they will or they won't, but it's like that guy was raw coming in. We knew he was raw coming in, and it's looked awful in the last 2 years. So This is and now you're likely getting Jalen Milroe at a much deeper discount compared to where Anthony Richardson was drafted. I'll say that, but I just think I do wonder if teams are going to look at the raw athletic quarterback and just think like, is this we should we should probably dump this guy down in our rankings and look at him as more of a project than a sure thing, and that's going to trickle down to his fantasy value taking a hit.
Yeah, I like those points. I think one common theme, regardless of what year it is, I think you do see that, how good you are in college with your raw athletic ability sometimes, doesn't always translate well to the NFL, and you do see those prototypes struggle at times, right? So that's definitely a interesting piece to kind of keep an eye on and kind of see how the pro scouts, keep commenting on Milroe there. But let's move on down our list. Let's move on to the Texas prospect, Quinn Ewers. Let's go. Ethan. Let's talk Quinn.
Quinn Ewers. They have him listed at 6'2", 6'3", 206. Turns 22 in March. And when you look at Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's a 3-year starter at Texas. Um, and he does have all the arm talent of an NFL caliber starter. He can get the ball out in a hurry, flick of the wrist, will get the ball there. I did notice just watching it as film, like he gets the ball out quick. He can get the ball out quick when he needs to. So that'll definitely translate in the NFL. So that's it's a big strengths of his. Some of his weakness, he can be fooled from pre-snap to post-snap looks. Just looking at some of um, the scouts' comments and things like that, which obviously he's going to need to work on if he wants to be successful in the NFL. You can't be out there getting fooled. When the ball is snapped, it's going to lead to a lot of turnovers and a lot of sacks. And in college, he got stuck in his first read a lot, which obviously he's going to need to work on. Just like I said, I mean, the NFL is, I mean, they take away your usually they try to take away your best player, your first read. So, I mean, sometimes you get to the second, even third reads. And then his footwork can be lazy at times. That's probably contribution to his arm talent. I mean, sometimes you do see these quarterbacks with live arms. I know Drake May coming into the NFL last year. There was a lot of knock on his footwork, but obviously that didn't hurt him much at all in the NFL. But he did obviously put a lot of work into getting better in that aspect because I mean it's a just a different animal going from college to the NFL and guys like Quinn Ewers who aren't these elite prospects with all this elite talent. I mean, you need to be dialed in every aspect of your game, from like your pre-snap reads to your footwork to your delivery to I mean to everything. So, Quinn Ewers, um, he was essentially a perfect prospect coming out of high school, very highly regarded. I believe he first committed to Ohio State and ended up back at Texas when C.J. Stroud essentially took that starting gig at Ohio State, and then like I said, a 3-year starter at Texas. But Quinn Ewers is an interesting prospect. We'll see if he can climb up the board and can kind of compete with Shedeur and Cam Ward to maybe get into that mix. I don't necessarily see that at this point. I mean, he didn't have as good of a 2024 season as he did in 2023. I think that can be contributed to losing Jonathan Brooks, Xavier Worthy, and Adonai Mitchell. I mean, those are obviously three highly drafted players in the NFL draft last year. So losing those guys is definitely going to impact you. But I mean, he had 3,400 yards this past season, 31 touchdowns, 12 picks. So, and he completed 65.8% of his passes. So not bad by any means. But it'll be interesting to see how he potentially rises or falls throughout this process.
Yeah, in my book, he's going to be a faller in this process for sure. I don't have him anywhere near the top five quarterbacks in this class. I just don't really see very much that I'm overly impressed with when I watch Quinn Ewers. I went in there wanting to see a 5-star recruit and see that raw ability. Didn't see it, to be honest with you. Um, just I just saw him struggling to get off his first read, like staring down receivers and putting the ball like it's almost like he determined at the stamp of the ball, I am throwing this football to this player And no matter what, I mean, if the half the defense is on him, I don't care. I'm throwing it. And it's like that's not going to work in the NFL. So the decision making under pressure needs to be improved. Downfield accuracy is a question mark for me. I felt like he was kind of just just he was on the bus, but he wasn't driving it for that Texas team. I know they made a nice little run into the college football playoffs, but I felt like he was just kind of like the guy they were like, hey, we have great players on our team. We have good skill players. Another few guys going to the NFL this year at the wide receiver position. Like let's just get the guy get to them in space, let them do the thing. I kind of felt like he was a passenger, if I'm being honest with you. So he's not a guy I'm drafting at all in one quarterback leagues and in super flex formats. Maybe he's like the third round dart throw territory just because of how valuable the position is. We can firm that up as the process moves along and we see where he goes in the NFL draft. But I wouldn't be shocked if he was a day three NFL draft pick.
Yeah, no,
Day
I agree with that.
Gonna say day three, yeah, definitely definitely watch out there. I mean, being a 3-year starter, might have something going for him, but I think this is an interesting year with how many teams do need quarterbacks. So it would be interesting to see, which team may possibly reach for some of these guys. But Kamish, let's stick with you. You said you have a guy that sounds like you haven't brought him up yet, but I'm just reducing down to who we're talking. This is our fifth guy, so this has got to be your guy. And just judging by his name, I'm just gonna go optics right now. Jaxson Dart. If that's ever a quarterback name, um, it is one, right? So, talk to us about Jaxson Dart from Ole Miss.
Yeah, it's a quarterback name. All right. Yeah, you got it, Aaron. This is the fifth guy we're talking about, our last guy on our show for tonight. So yes, he's currently my quarterback two in this class, out of Ole Miss, previously from at USC. Um, really liked a lot of what I saw from Jaxson Dart. No wasted motion in his release, which is awesome. Has the ability to drive the ball into windows and he'll do it with confidence. He steps up in the pocket. He can absorb contact and deliver the ball. There's a few nice highlights out there of him getting hit and standing in there and keeping his eyes downfield, which I like to see it. NFL coaches love to see that, so it's going to play well, I think, with scouts. Also ran for almost 500 yards in his senior season, so he does give you some with his legs. He was Pro Football Focus's number two rated quarterback on the 2024 campaign. So I really liked a lot of what I saw from Jaxson Dart. They're some things to clean up, though, of course. Somewhat erratic with throwing over the middle of the field. That's definitely one thing he needs to get cleaned up for sure. There's some questions just stylistically if he can succeed in a pro system. Obviously, Lane Kiffin runs a little bit of certainly a college offense, a lot of like isolated stuff with receivers one on one versus stuff that maybe didn't necessarily have to process and go through his progressions like a pro style offense would have you do that. But overall, I'm just kind of fascinated with what the NFL thinks about Jaxson Dart. So maybe I'm going on a limb here and saying this, but I think he's going to be a first round pick. I think he has the talent to do so. And it's kind of twofold here. I do like a lot what I see from Jaxson Dart, but I think a lot of this also has to do with just need at the position. Like we know the NFL teams are craving for quarterback play to come in and save them. And Aaron did a good job of highlighting off the top of our show court teams that need quarterbacks. I mean, right now, you tell me the Titans, Browns, Giants, Raiders, Jets, Saints, Seahawks, and Steelers, teams that a couple of those teams have quarterbacks, but they're kind of like, is Derek Carr the future of the Saints? No. Is Geno Smith the future of the Seahawks? No. Who the hell is playing quarterback in Pittsburgh this year? I don't even know. And it's just like where are we going to fill these voids? I mean, obviously we've talked about guys like Ward and Sanders, who we both like and we're high on, but that's only two guys here. I mean, if you look at the pool of free agents this season, like the best quarterbacks in free agency are guys like Sam Darnold and Justin Fields. So okay, you want to tell me those two guys are starting somewhere next season? Fine, I can buy that. And there's Ward and Sanders are taking up two spots. That still leaves five teams on this list that could use a quarterback. And I mean the rest of the class, guys, we're looking at like Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, Mariota, Drew Lock, Andy Dalton, Jared Stidham. Like, stop me if you feel if you when you hear a guy's name that
Trey Lance. Trey
you want to
Lance.
plant your flag on. Yeah,
There you go, Ethan.
Ethan,
Trey
that flag
Lance.
is on the moon at this point. The Trey Lance flag. Like, see you later, guy. So yeah, so I just really like what I've seen from Jaxson Dart. I think he has that upside, and I think he's going to be a guy that the NFL gravitates towards more and more as the process unfolds, and we see him being drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. I think the stop point for him is pick 21, which is Pittsburgh drafting there. So, that's my long-winded explanation of saying Jaxson Dart is my number two quarterback in this 2024 draft class.
Yeah, Jackson Dart. I mean, I did like what I saw. watching him play. He as you alluded to, he can move the ball with his legs. Like you said, he had nearly 500 yards this past year. I mean, his first year starting at Ole Miss, he had 614 yards on the ground. But hey, 3-year SEC starter at Ole Miss. He can deliver the rock, and he has good size. I mean, he's listed 6'2", 6'3", 210 to 225, so somewhere around there. So obviously NFL size, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, just looking at, there's not many multi-round mock drafts right now. I like looking at Chad Reuter's throughout the process. I know Chad Reuter's mock draft 1.0, what that came out a couple days ago. They actually had the Jets trading back into the first round with Kansas City at pick 31 to draft Jaxson Dart. So that would I mean, first round capital. Obviously, you're going to get a shot. Like Jaxson Dart, you're going to get a shot at some point to take the reins. Obviously, with Aaron Rodgers leaving, if they move up into the first to get Dart, I mean, maybe he starts in year one, or maybe they bring in a bridge. But at that point, he's probably starting at least within those first 2 years, depending on kind of what moves the Jets make. But it'll be interesting to see. I think he does have the ability to be a riser in this process. Like Chad Reuter had him going 31. He had Ewers going 33, and he had Milroe actually to Pittsburgh at 53. So it'll be interesting to see where all these quarterbacks fall. But I mean, if guys like Dart and Ewers, they fall to the second round of the NFL draft, obviously that's going to plummet their stock in our rookie drafts, and they're probably going to be second round super flex picks, if not third, depending how far they fall. And then obviously in one QB leagues, they're third round picks just to maybe get quarterbacks in the
Afterthought,
back.
yeah.
Yeah, in the back of your roster. But um, yeah, that's the top five at this point. I mean, you never know what can happen. It's early on in the process. There's a lot more information that's going to come our way, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think you guys kind of hit it on the head tonight. I mean, there is a lot more of the off season to go. But I think Kamish called out a couple more teams. I mean, if some of these guys do drop past the first 7 picks, there are more teams that could use quarterbacks, or some of these guys might take them in the second or third round. And just because we know there are some, highly skilled players in this draft as well. So be interesting there. Rams, for instance, I think there was one team you didn't say, Commish, but Rams, I mean, with Stafford
Yeah.
maybe retiring around the corner, like it might be a sneaky play to grab one of these guys late in your rookie drafts too, whoever ends up maybe on the Rams, for example, too. But I got a quick Patriots question for you guys. Randomly, right? But this is, believe it or not, this will be a quarterback question. Would you take Joe Milton over any of these guys?
Yeah, Bazooka Joe.
I mean, he's kind of like in the. I mean, I bash Quinn Ewers pretty good, so I don't think I can turn around in good conscience and say no. I'd probably take him over based on what he showed in very limited sample size of that one start. I'd probably take him. He's probably right even with Jalen Milroe, if not even ahead of him, because we saw him do it for a game at the NFL level. I wouldn't take him over the top three in Ward, Sanders, or my boy Jaxson Dart. So I'd probably slot him in there, just because it's obviously an unfair exercise because we have data on him at the NFL level, but I would slot him probably in QB4 if he was in this class.
Yeah, because I mean Bazooka Joe Milton, I mean, his raw talent is just, I mean, far exceeds even somebody like Shedeur Sanders. I mean, Shedeur Sanders can't compete with Milton in terms of just their arm talent. I mean, it's unbelievable what Milton can do with the football. But there's been trade rumors with Joe Milton from the Patriots. There's teams that are calling for him. I mean, and I'm hearing potentially even they as high as a third round pick. So the way I look at it is like, hey, is Quinn Ewers, is Dart, are these guys worth more than a third round pick? If they are, you got to go with the rookies coming into this class. But hey, Joe Milton showed out and screwed the Patriots from that number one draft pick, and he might make some money.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why I asked. I know you guys are the resident Patriots experts, but definitely hearing a little bit of rumors, his names came up, and I think anytime you got a draft class that some of these prospects may drop a little bit, makes it a little more interesting. So, but hey, that's all we got for tonight as far as quarterbacks go. Like we said early on, that this is just really the beginning. We got a whole off season to talk more prospects, and we'll probably bring them back up as the off season continues and as different things happen as well. Kamish, I saw you came off mute. You wanna add on here?
That's all I got, man. It was a good rundown on quarterbacks. Looking forward to getting to the wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. We're going to be coming at you hot with rookie content here this time of year, which is awesome. Can't wait to break it down, boys.
I love it. Yeah, make sure you're following on all of our socials and or join our Discord and message us. Do anything, right? We'll communicate with anybody there. But that's all we got. Peace.